If you like this video, make sure to subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell icon to get the latest updates.
All right, so for those who were not part of the demo session, this gives you a quick understanding of the different topics that we will be covering as part of the SAP HANA 2.0 training course. And this again is just a guiding principle for us. This doesn't mean that we will stay at this high level of information. We will take each of these topics that we have listed here, and we will go into significant depth so that you understand the breadth and width of all the information that we will be covering inside that topic. So this gives you a perspective. So with this in mind, let's get started with today's session. So today what we are going to do is, today's topic is going to be SAP HANA 2.0 Introduction to HANA. So the focus of today's session and tomorrow's session is going to be that we are going to understand what is SAP HANA all about. So the first thing that you want to know, people who are not familiar with this product will probably want to know what SAP HANA is all about, right? So HANA stands for High Performance Analytical Appliance. This is the abbreviation for HANA. So let's give that information to everybody. So the H in the high, the analytical, AN, and the A for appliance is what is called as HANA, SAP HANA. So currently we are looking at a version called as 2.0. So what I want to do is, before I get started talking about SAP HANA, there is one thing I want to make sure, right? So people who have joined the session today, some of you could be of an SAP background. You've probably worked on different SAP technology, but probably not on SAP HANA. And there could be other people who have not from SAP background to start with. So what I want to do is, if I directly jump and say, okay, let's start talking about SAP HANA, which is your high performance analytical appliance, it is not going to give you the relevance of this product. So what I would like to do is maybe spend about 5 minutes or so talking about the SAP product in general, right? We'll talk about what this SAP product is, what has happened in the SAP market that we have now come to a place where we want to embrace this new technology called as SAP HANA. So I'm going to spend a little bit of time. For those who have already worked on SAP, it will be jogging your memory. You will probably travel back in time thinking about what has happened in SAP. And for those who have not worked on SAP platform, this will set the context. If I directly start talking about SAP HANA, you probably would not be able to appreciate its potential to that extent. So, but if you understand what SAP systems were all about and what were the issues and challenges that we faced with the regular SAP product, then you will come to understand why SAP HANA has come into market at this point and what its relevance is. So I think that will put the context in place. So that's what I'm going to do. So if you know what happened is, let's quickly run through the history of SAP, right? SAP company was started in the 1970s, early 1970s. So the reason for starting this company called SAP was multifold, right? So what happened is, a company called IBM was actually working on a project. So they were working on multiple projects in the early 90s, 70s. And what was happening is, if you go to any organization, what's going to happen, be it a manufacturing company, be it an operational company, be it a technology company, no matter what, if you take an organization and try to understand what happens on a day-to-day basis in an organization, you can probably categorize the entire functionality of an organization into few buckets. So just to give you a perspective, right? Let's say, for example, I take an example of a manufacturing company. In a manufacturing company, what typically happens is, you will see certain departments are very, very critical for any organization, right? One such department is finance. Any organization, no matter what that organization is, it will definitely need a finance department. It will also definitely need a manufacturing department. In this case, because it is a manufacturing company, you definitely need a manufacturing company. When you have manufactured a product, you also need a sales department to actually sell your product. You also need human resources. So just to keep it simple, right? If you think of any organization, these are some of the departments that you are very, very sure that you're going to have. So typically what happens on a day-to-day basis in an organization is, let's say, for example, the company is manufacturing a product, let's say called X. X is the product they have manufactured. In order to manufacture that, the company will reach out to certain vendors to get some raw material. So they buy the raw material from the vendors and they create the finished product. A finished product called as X is created. Once they have finished the product called as X, they have to start selling this product, right? So what happens? Though the manufacturing team is actually working on creating this finished product, the manufacturing team has to rely on the sales department. The sales department is the one that reaches out to the external customers. Give me 1 second. Are the ones who reach out to the external customers and start selling the product. When a customer buys this product, let's say this particular customer pays $100 for this product, the money does not go back to the sales department. What happens? The money directly goes to your finance department. So now, for a single transaction to happen, that is for your finished product to be sold to the outside market, if you look at the different departments that are available in your organization, the manufacturing team works to make the product. The sales department team actually sells the product to the customer. When the customer makes the payment actually goes to the finance team. Now, what is the functionality of the human resources? For all these different departments to work, the human resource has to give them the resources, the people to actually work on these different departments. So the idea of this discussion here is to say that for one activity, that is to make a sale, all your different department has to work in conjunction. That is, there is significant amount of integration between these different departments in any organization. So if I were to coin this terminology, right, this is called as enterprise resource planning. How efficiently am I making the integration between the different departments in my organization is referred to as enterprise resource planning. I'm using the enterprise resource and planning them efficiently that the integration between the different departments are working without any hitch in the process. In the olden days, what used to happen is, that is before this ERP terminology came into play, every department was working as a silo organization. So for example, if you look at the finance department, I could be running a product like, just to give you a perspective, like .NET. I can be running a .NET application to support the finance organization. I could be running another system, XYZ, to control everything that's happening in the manufacturing department. For sales, I could be using some other tool like Power Builder, so on and so forth. And for human resources, I could be using tool like PeopleSoft, etc. I'm just giving you an idea of what is happening, right? So if you look at it, every individual department is using a separate application or a technology to run its organization. The key idea of this enterprise resource planning is to make sure that these functionalities work in tandem. They have to work hand in hand. But if I'm working on different technology, every single department uses a different technology, the integration between them is going to become a nightmare. So this became a huge problem in the early 1970s. Companies were understanding that, okay, I know that the company has to work in integration with all the different departments, but because I'm maintaining separate application, it's going to be very, very difficult for me. So what happened is, a company, resources from a company called IBM, 5 or 6 resources, I don't remember exactly, they understood the problem here. They understood what is the issue that's happening in any organization, and they found that there is a potential, there is a possibility for us to make this process much more streamlined. So that is how these 5 or 6 people stepped out of the company and started their own company called as SAP. Their primary purpose was to create a software which focuses on enterprise resource planning. So the reason why we spent about 5 minutes talking about this is you need to understand the context behind why SAP came into the market, right? So that's what I'm trying to do here. So when ERP solutions became popular in the 1970s, there were only 2 market products that were available. One was Oracle and the other one was SAP. What happened is when this ERP became a big trend in the market, Oracle focused and said that, okay, I'm going to create an ERP solution. But what they did is they had a narrow focus and they only focused on the financial aspects of an organization. They started looking at what are all the different integration points. If you take your entire organization, what are all the different functional points, integration points that reaches to your financial system? So Oracle came up with this product, ERP product called as Oracle Financials. It's still a very popular ERP solution, but what you will see is it is predominantly focused on finance related information. On the other hand, what SAP did was SAP said, I'm going to take a different stand. I'm not going to create a subject matter specific ERP solution, which is like financial. I'm not going to only focus on financial. I'm going to create a general ERP solution, So what SAP did was SAP created this ERP solution with 3 main buckets. The first bucket focuses on finance. The second bucket focuses on logistics. And the third bucket focuses on human resources. So what they did is they know that any organization you take, these are the main bucket of information. So when you talk about finance, I can talk about accounts payable. I can talk about accounts receivable. I can talk about general ledger, so on and so forth. There are several applications within the finance spectrum. So if I look at the department, right, finance department in an organization, there will be a team that's focused on accounts payable. There will be a team focused on receivables, general ledger, so on and so forth. Similarly, if I look at logistics, there will be manufacturing department. There will be sales department. There will be quality control department. There will be so many different functionalities within the logistics. If you look at human resources, there will be a benefits team. There will be a tax team. There will be a payroll team, so on and so forth. So what SAP did was, rather than going for a specialized product, they created this product called as SAP ERP. This is a general product which can be used by any organization, because any organization is going to have finance. Any organization is going to have some kind of logistics. Any organization is going to use human resources on a daily basis. So because of the spectrum, the difference between the Oracle financial product, that is the Oracle ERP product, and SAP ERP product, SAP automatically had the edge over Oracle systems. And this started capturing more than 65% of the world market share when it came to ERP solution. So even today, if you look at it, SAP is still claimed as the #1 product when it comes to ERP solution. So the reason why I gave you a perspective of this is SAP, you need to understand how everything started within the SAP company, right? So they started focusing on SAP ERP solution. Now, let's understand the timeline here. So let's quickly talk about SAP timeline and product evolution. Why is this important? Is you need to now understand why SAP HANA is in the marketplace. For you to understand that, if you quickly travel through the time, you will understand what products came into the market within SAP, what happened to them, what were the challenges, and how those challenges were overcome by SAP's new set of products. So that's what we are trying to do here. So looking at the SAP timeline information, as I mentioned, in the early 1970s till about the 1990s, SAP was primarily focused on only one product, and that product was SAP ERP. What does it have? It has that finance, it has that logistics, it has human resource management system. That is all it was primarily focused on. So if you look at it, if I want to generalize what this product is called as, this is a transactional system. Why is it called a transactional system? Is the primary focus of this product, if I were to look at it, I would get transactions from many systems and they would flow into this product called as SAP ERP. My primary purpose of this is to bring in my transactions that is coming from other systems. Let's say, for example, I have if you take a look at example as Walmart, as soon as I make an entry or a sale, I enter the information in the registry, or it's called the point of sale. As soon as an entry is made, that information has to be captured in your ERP, because one department is actually making an entry and that information has to flow into the SAP ERP system. So what happens, that information would go into the finance data, it would go into the human resource information, so on and so forth. There is a lot of integration that needs to happen, and that's why it is called a transactional system. Even if I have to give it a generalized terminology, it is referred to as OLTP, online transaction processing system. That was the idea of an online system, transaction system. So when you talk about 1970s to about early 1990s, companies were primarily focused on, as soon as I make a transaction, how do I efficiently capture that information in an ERP solution? They were more focused on making sure that you don't lose any transaction that has been captured. That is where the primary focus was. Here, the intention or the focus was more on day-to-day operations. They were making sure that if I capture the day-to-day transaction and if I'm able to store it in this ERP application, that is all I wanted to focus on. There were very minimal reporting functionality or analytics being used at this point of time. What I mean by analytics is, I did not want to know how my company was doing today in comparison to last year, or how my company is doing in comparison to my competitor. Those kind of analytics was very seldom done during those early ages of 1970s and 1990s. But things started evolving, right? We moved on to a platform called as globalization. As we moved from the early 1990s, what happened is we started moving toward globalization. What does that mean? The market became open. We were not just restricted to competition with our neighbors, but the whole world was actually becoming a competition for us. So what happened is, organizations started understanding that it's not just enough for me to do day-to-day operation. SAP ERP solution is helping me with the day-to-day operation. It's capturing my transactions on a daily basis. But that alone is not sufficient for me. I need to now understand what are the trends. I should be able to look at my system, this ERP system, and say what has happened today, and if for me to do improvement. So for example, I want to be able to analyze my history. What happened last year same time? Last summer, what was the most important product that I sold? What was the largest volume of product that was sold? I want to be able to analyze my history so that I can start forecasting what's going to be my future looking like. I should be able to look at my competitors' data and do analysis. So analyzing the history, doing forecasting. So companies started shifting gears. They said, it is not just alone enough for me to do day-to-day operation, but I'm going to be now focusing on doing much more analytics. But if you look at this original system called as ERP, this was never meant to do all these type of extra analytical functionality. It was kept very simple. I should be able to capture all my transactions efficiently so that that data is available to me. But the focus was never on doing extra analytics. When the time came that every organization started looking at this possibility of doing extra analytics, this ERP solution was not sufficient. Because if you look at it, the functionality of the ERP system is to get data. How efficiently I can bring the data into the system. But it was never built to extract data out of it and use it for reporting functionality. So now, since there was a lot of information required from a reporting perspective, in the late 1990s, beginning 2000s, SAP created a new set of product. The first product is referred to as SAP BW. So SAP BW is nothing but a data warehousing solution. As the name warehouse points out, all the data that was originally stored in your ERP system was pushed into another platform in SAP called as SAP BW, which is an online analytical system, analytical processing system, also referred to as OLAP system. So the intention of this SAP BW tool was to predominantly use it for reporting and analytic purposes. So the data that was stored in ERP was pushed further into SAP BW and used for reporting functionality. So the globalization, after the globalization in the late 1990s, a total of 16 different products were actually released by SAP. One of the first product that was released by SAP after the globalization started was SAP BW. In addition to this, they also created new products like SAP SRM, SAP CRM, and so on and so forth. Several new products. So total of these products were referred to as my SAP Business Suite. A total of 16 different products were created under the globalization era. So the core idea here is, think of it as this. The basic functionality was created in the 1970s. Think of it as an advanced jump. SAP created a new set of products that will help you with the current technology. So SAP BW was predominantly created with reporting and analytics in mind. So this happened. SAP BW is referred to as the end-to-end data warehousing tool. It can do a lot of great functionality. But as we went ahead and started looking at this new product, we understood that there were certain limitations with the BW system. One is, the main idea of SAP BW is to store large volume of data. I'm now talking about historical data, right? Several terabytes of information to be stored in the system. And I should have great reporting capabilities on this large volume of data. When I look at these two challenges, SAP BW was falling a little short. The reason is, as I try to load significant amount of data into the BW system, two issues happen. One is, data load takes a longer time because the large volume of data is being pushed into BW. That takes a longer time. Similarly, data read also takes a significant, right? Because if I have stored several million records in my BW system, to retrieve that, to be able to report on that information is going to take a lot of time, right? I have to do a lot of calculation, bring the information onto the screen so that the users can view that information. So if you look at it, the data load and data read performance was becoming a significant problem when it came to BW. Though BW was a very successful data warehousing solution provided by SAP, the challenges that the company started facing was, it was taking longer time to do your data load or to do your data read, that is your reporting performance was taking a significant hit. So what SAP did is, they started looking at, BW is a good solution, but I think I still need to add something on top of it to make that functionality much more better. I understand the challenges, but I have to overcome those challenges, right? So in the 2000s, what happened is SAP started looking at acquiring some reporting tools from the outside market. They thought that the reporting tools that were available within SAP BW, though they were satisfying the requirement, they were not visually appealing. The reporting tools used by SAP BW was not visually appealing. It was getting the job done, but it was not very sophisticated. So SAP went in the market and started looking at different reporting tools. And one such reporting tool was SAP Business Objects. SAP went and bought, so it was Business Objects. It's a France-based company. It was bought in, I think, 2006. SAP went and bought this company and integrated. So this became SAP now. SAP's Business Object has a suite of reporting tools now. So in the 2000s, one of the major things that happened in the SAP platform was buying this SAP Business Objects reporting tool. That was one big change. So that addresses your reporting capability. That is the way you can actually appealingly show your data, was kind of satisfied using your SAP Business Object. The acquiring of the SAP Business Object product helped on the reporting front. But there was still the issue of data performance. There was still that performance issue, whether I'm trying to load the data or extract the data. The information required or the data performance was really, really bad. So what SAP did was they understood that our current technology, that is our SAP BW system, is running on a traditional RDBMS system. What is RDBMS? Is Relational Database Management System. SAP application always has to be supported by an underlying database. So let's say, for example, it could have been SQL Server, it could have been Oracle, so on and so forth, any RDBMS system. Because SAP was reliant on a third-party database, like RDBMS system like SQL Server or Oracle, the data load and the data performance was predominantly controlled by the third-party tool, like your SQL Server or Oracle. So SAP very soon understood that the bottleneck seems to be in your underlying RDBMS system. Your SAP BW application layer could be a great product, but it can only be great as long as its underlying database, correct? So they started realizing that the underlying database was actually slowing down the capability of SAP BW, primarily from a data performance standpoint. So what they started doing is they started looking at in-memory computing functionality. So what is in-memory computing is, think of your own browser, right? Just to give you an idea. Let's say, for example, if you look at your browser, let's say Internet Explorer, the first time you try to go into a website called as Yahoo, I'm just trying to give you a perspective of what this in-memory computing is all about, right? The first time you try to type in www.yahoo.com, the system goes through some functionality. It goes and tries to find the domain name for that Yahoo website, and from the database it fetches the information, goes to this website and brings back the information. So there is a lot of processing that happens when you are actually trying to use a website for the very first time. But the first time you have captured this information, what happens is the Explorer has a cache. Think of it as memory, right? It stores that information in your memory. The next time you try yahoo.com, it will not go through this entire route of processing your information. It directly hits your cache and brings back the information. So this cache is nothing but memory, data stored in your memory. This is just a brief understanding of what it is, right? So similarly, SAP was looking at what could I do better so that rather than making this long process of doing data performance, if I can go to some short functionality. So SAP went and created a new product called as BWA. BWA is nothing but Business Warehouse accelerator. So think of it as an accelerator to your existing BW application. So this was the first in-memory computing functionality. So what does this BWA does? It is a purely memory system. Your information that is stored in your BW system is copied over into your memory. So the next time a query runs, the query will not go hit the BW system directly. Because the same information is stored in your memory, it will directly go to your memory and pull the information. So the information comes out extremely fast. When SAP started working on this in-memory computing functionality, they saw that there is a significant potential for in-memory computing, and that is how they started moving on to their new platform called as SAP HANA. So one of the key things that actually drove SAP to this new product called as SAP HANA is challenges with your reporting and with your data performance. That was one of the primary reasons why SAP started moving on to SAP HANA as a platform. So the idea of giving this timeline and product evolution is, when you actually go into a real world project, if you have not been in an SAP technology before, you need to understand what happened, right? What happened in the past? What is the history behind SAP? That we have come to a place where we have to now focus on SAP HANA. So that's the reason why I wanted to spend this 10-15 minutes talking about SAP evolution and getting all the way into SAP HANA. So that's what I wanted to talk about from an SAP evolution perspective. Now, what we want to do is, now we understand that everybody is looking at SAP HANA for few primary reasons. We talked about one of the major reasons being data performances. Data performance has been a primary criteria for organizations to start look at SAP HANA as a product. But let's understand it in a little more detail, right? Let's try to understand why SAP HANA. So what are the common challenges? Let's understand what are the common challenges that are happening in today's market. So if you understand that better, you will be able to now better appreciate why SAP HANA is a product and what kind of problems is it solving on a day-to-day basis. So if you look at some of the common challenges that we are facing in any organization, the first thing is growth of data. We all understand that the data is significantly growing, right? The days have gone where we are just talking about gigabyte of information. We are talking mostly terabytes. We are even talking about exabytes and petabytes. So we are talking in significant exponential format in which the data is growing in any organization. So that has become a very big problem for every organization, right? So if I were to store, if I have to be not just surviving, but to thrive in the market, I should be able to look at my own information that has been stored for several decades together. And I should be able to read insights from it and be able to use them to move forward in my marketplace. So growth, the amount of information that is currently available to any organization is growing in multiple ways. So the constant growth of data has become a big challenge for us. That is one thing that all organizations are facing at this point. The second thing that we are also facing is, gone are the days where people are okay to get data a day later. Let's say, for example, my transaction system had all the information captured from my sales transaction from yesterday, and I am only be able to do analysis on that data today. So I'm able to do analysis today, but I can only analyze the data that was brought in yesterday. So I'm always having a delay in the information that I'm collecting. What is happening is, that was okay during the olden days. In the early 2000s and in the 1990s, it was okay to be able to look at a 1 day behind and provide analyticals on that day. That was okay during those earlier time. But now we are moving so aggressive that we want to be able to do analysis of data that has come right now. So organizations are now moving more toward real-time application. They want real-time data to be available, and I should be able to provide analytics on real-time information. So that is another thing. The third thing is, if you notice, if you are working in an SAP environment or in non-SAP environment, if you are working in the IT field, you will soon realize that gone are the days where people were willing to wait for a report to generate in half an hour or 45 minutes or an hour, right? Those days have gone. People want data instantaneously. What I mean by that is, I should be able to perform heavy calculations and be able to generate a report in seconds. We're not talking about minutes anymore. The data should be, if the data now generates in, let's say, 10 seconds, that is rated as a slow performing report. So companies are moving toward extremely fast retrieval of information. The speed of reporting has become another big concern for many organizations. Another thing is, with everything moving toward all this social network, be it your excuse me, be it your Facebook, be it your Twitter, whatever that information is, right? These data are referred to as unstructured data. In the past, companies were only focused on structured data, any data that is coming in a table format. We were only doing analysis on data that was coming in a table format. But we are moving more towards unstructured data, right? So now the company is asking that I don't want a system to just provide me analytics on structured information. That is still necessary. But the market is going more toward unstructured data. I should be able to capture this unstructured data and also be able to provide analytics on that. So another common problem is, they want applications that can work on both structured and unstructured information. So that is another common challenge that companies are facing. Another major challenge that companies are facing is, if you look at the traditional way of things done, if a business wants a new report to be developed, predominantly what happens is, the business has to rely heavily on the IT team. The IT resources are completely controlling the requirement, because what they are doing is, once they capture the requirements from the business team, they are the ones who are actually developing the product. The report has to be developed by the IT. So the dependency on IT is another big challenge, because what happens is, if the IT team is also working on 3 other projects, they have to now prioritize what is important and how soon they can deliver this report. So the dependency on IT team is also becoming a big challenge for organization. So if you look at this, these are some of the common challenges that we are seeing in a day-to-day basis in the marketplace. In any organization, if you look at it, this is what is happening. So how do we handle? So if I were to classify these common challenges, right, I can probably classify them as, I'll put, let's say a company needs granularity. What is granularity is, I should be able to drill down to the lowest level of information that is available or captured in any database. I can probably see, let's say for example, if an organization sold $2 million worth of products on a given day, I want to know at a high level what was the total sales volume, total sales dollar got on that particular day. But if I'm also curious enough to know what was the individual products that actually contributed to this $2 million, I should be able to go down further. So I can look at a higher level and say, what is my total dollar amount? It could be 2 million. But I want to go down and understand what product A, 100 quantity was sold, and that contributed to $100,000. So I should be able to drill down from a summarized view to a detailed view. So companies are looking at, when they look at a product, right, when they look at any product that is available in the market, one of the common questions they are asking is, what is its granularity capability? That is, how deep can it traverse through and get me information? That is one key aspect that has been asked. The second aspect that has been asked is, what is its speed capacity? when you talk about a product like SAP, how does your product work in comparison to high speed performance? That is, I should be able to get the data from the system extremely faster. Another thing is, how simple is your system? What I mean by simplicity is, gone are those days where you want to write codes and codes underlying in your programming system, whereby you churn the information and provide it to the business users. You want to keep it simple. You have to make it much more efficient, that the product has to be able to provide all the programming to you. You don't have to write the program. Internally, the product has to write its own program, provided you give the right requirement. So they want a system that is very simple and easy to be understood by many different parts of the organization. The fourth question is your system capable of handling real-time information? That is another information that is constantly asked in the organization. And one of the next fifth requirement is, can you hold broad information? That is, can you hold a large volume of history data? So if you look at it, we are looking at 5 different key points that are being used for consideration by any organization. If you look at the traditional RDBMS applications, traditional softwares, be it your SAP ERP, be it your SAP or non-SAP products like SQL Server, so on and so forth. If you look at your traditional world, they were able to provide you deeper granularity. So that is a given thing for them. They were able to store large volume of information. That also was a given. They were not able to provide real-time information. So that was not provided by them. Simplicity, it's not possible, right? Because the kind of complexity we have in the traditional system does not make it a simpler product. Can it provide high-speed data? No. So typically, if you look at the traditional world of SAP or non-SAP system, they were able to give you granularity and they were able to hold large volume of information, but that's all it could provide. On the contrary, if we looked at OLAP type of applications, for example, let's take the case of BW. If I take the same functionality, the 5 points I just mentioned, an OLAP application like SAP BW is able to provide you deeper granularity. So that is a given. It's to an extent, it's able to provide high speed information. It's able to hold historical data. But when it comes to real time, it does a little bit of real time, but not to a greater extent. And simplicity is definitely not there, because there is a lot of complexity involved in maintaining the data model to present your information. So what happened is, be it your transactional system or your OLAP system, they were only able to satisfy few of the 5 requirements. So when SAP started coming up with this product called as SAP HANA, what happened is the focus was mainly on solving all the 5 different requirements of an organization. So SAP HANA, as we mentioned, can store deep granularity of information. Any volume of data can be stored, and you can quickly, because of its underlying technology, you're able to quickly get into the details from a higher level to a lower level. High speed, because it's an in-memory computing engine, high speed is a given thing. Extremely fast data performance is provided by SAP HANA. You will soon realize that when we start talking about data modeling and information stored in HANA, it is kept very, very simple. Gone are the days where it has used to be extremely complex data modeling that we were doing. It has become much more simplified to the extent that we can actually show this to a business user who doesn't understand the IT terminology. He or she would still be able to appreciate what we have done in the system. Real-time application. SAP HANA is very capable of handling real-time information and broad information, historical data. So what happened with SAP HANA is it is now able to satisfy all the challenges that used to be a big concern for organization, that is being satisfied with SAP HANA. So now what we have done is we have understood at a very high level, right? We have still not gone into the details of what SAP HANA is all about, but I'm just giving you a flavor of how SAP evolved. Today, what are the common challenges that we are seeing in a marketplace? What are the organizations looking for? So we looked at all these challenges that we are seeing and how these challenges are bucketed. We looked at the 5 different buckets that we think are the most common needs of an organization, and how SAP HANA is, as a product, is actually helping organization resolve all these requirements that a company has. So that is one of the primary things that we wanted to talk about. Now that we have understood at a high level why SAP HANA has come into the marketplace, let's understand a little bit about what SAP HANA is all about. So that's what I'm going to be now talking about. So start with introduction to SAP HANA. So before I do that, I'm going to take a pause and see if there are any questions so we can quickly handle those questions. All right. So now is the history of SAP product and why SAP HANA came into the market, is that clear for everyone? All right, excellent. So the reason why we provided that information is to set the context, right? If I directly jumped into SAP HANA, you might probably miss out on some information, and that's the idea here, to give you the relevance of it so that you appreciate the product called as SAP HANA much better. Now, we have set the stage. We are saying that there are certain common challenges that we face in an organization, and in order to solve those common problems, SAP has come up with a new product called as SAP HANA. But let's start peeling the SAP HANA product and start understanding what is behind this SAP HANA system that it makes it so powerful. Okay, so that's what I'm going to be doing now for the next 10-15 minutes. I'll start talking about what this SAP HANA product is all about. So to start with, everybody knows that SAP HANA stands for High Performance Analytical Appliance. This is the product that has been released by SAP to solve the challenges that we faced in the common organization, right? What are the common challenges that we face? SAP came up with this particular product to solve those issues. Now, what is this technology? What is SAP HANA? When in layman terminology, you probably would have heard this concept called as SAP HANA is a in-memory computing engine. In-memory computing engine. So let's dive a little deeper and understand what this product is all about. So when you look at SAP HANA, it is not one single product. It has got information from multiple products that was built by SAP or by non-SAP product. They combined functionality from multiple places and created this product called as SAP HANA. So if I want to broadly classify what are the main underlying things that actually make SAP HANA as a product, is there are 3 different products that are combined together. The first product is called as TREX. The second product is called as P star time. And the third product is called as MaxDB. So the moment I talk about SAP HANA as a product, what you should be able to visualize it is comprising of 3 underlying major functionalities within that system. If you look at these individual functionality, these are the 3 that are combined together to create this product called as SAP HANA. So what are these 3 products and what are its capabilities, right? Let's understand that. We just simply say that HANA is an in-memory computing engine, but now let's understand what it actually means. So when I initially mentioned when BW was having issues, the SAP BW product, SAP came with a new product called as BWA. BWA, I mentioned, is their first in-memory product that was created by SAP. The underlying technology within this BWA platform, the Business Warehouse Accelerator, is called as TREX engine. So just to give you an analogy, right? Think of it as your Google engine. Google engine is also a memory, in-memory computing. If you look at it, when you type a question in Google and hit enter, the speed in which the data is retrieved back to you, that is because it works on an in-memory computing platform. Similarly, based on those principles, SAP created this technology called as Trex engine. This is purely in-memory functionality. So when SAP created this Trex engine, they said that we should not let go of this technology that we have built. Let's leverage that and build something better. So that is how this Trex functionality was leveraged by SAP HANA. So the in-memory computing capabilities, all functionalities were borrowed from this technology called as Trex. What does Trex stands for? Text retrieval and extraction. That is what is called Trex engine. So all your in-memory computing, the capability that is happening within your in-memory is all given by this functionality called as Trex. So again, we will go into next level of detail, what happens within this in-memory, right? So we will talk about that. But to keep it at a high level, anything to do with your in-memory functionality is driven by this Trex engine in your SAP HANA. Now, we have also heard this terminology that at a very lower level, HANA is nothing but a database. You can also say that HANA is a RDBMS system, relational databases. What is a typical relational database like SQL Server or Oracle used for? Is to get the data from the systems and store it efficiently. To store or capture information is the primary functionality of a database, to store the data, right? So even though HANA is all praised as in-memory functionality, it also has one aspect of it, which is it is still has a functionality called database, right? So it has to behave like a traditional database. What is that? When I bring the data into an SAP HANA database, it should be able to store or capture that information. So what functionality is needed? I need the RDBMS capabilities within the SAP HANA. The in-memory capabilities are given by the Trex engine. So something else has to give me the RDBMS capabilities, right? So the RDBMS capabilities are provided by a lightweight RDBMS engine called as P*Time. There is a product called as P*Time. It is a very lightweight RDBMS system. So it doesn't have all the bells and whistles of a traditional database like SQL Server. It doesn't come with that heaviness that a traditional Oracle database or a SQL Server brings in. It has a lot of complexities to it, right? All those complexities are stripped away. A lighter version of an RDBMS, which can do that, storing or capturing the information efficiently, that functionality is available in this P*Time lightweight RDBMS. So the RDBMS capabilities that the HANA system has is brought from the technology called as P*Time. The other thing is you also need to store information. You either store data in memory. You can use your RDBMS technology to efficiently bring the data and store it into the system. But one thing you have to remember is this HANA database is a in-memory system. What does that mean? Think of your RAM in your system, in your database, in your computer, or think of your flash drive, the pen drive that you have to store your documents. If that gets corrupted or if there is a power outage, what happens? All your information is lost. So though this SAP HANA system is an extremely powerful system and it is holding all its information in memory and doing a great job with the data performance, that is data loading and data retrieval is extremely fast. If there is a power outage or something happens, a natural disaster happens, all my information is in the memory, right? It will all get deleted. So that is a big concern for everybody, right? If I'm running an organization, I know the greatest advantages of storing information in memory. But if that in memory is lost, I will lose all my information, right? That is an even bigger problem. So on the conservative side, what SAP HANA is also done is, has brought the third technology called as MaxDB, which is a regular database. It is a disk-based storage functionality. So what happens is, on a regular basis, the data that is maintained in your in-memory is copied over as a backup functionality into your disk-based storage capability. So what happens? God forbid, if there is some natural disaster or something happens in the in-memory system, you still have your data residing in your traditional way. So by that, you're able to recover this information. When the power outage goes and comes back, you can retrieve the information back from your disk storage onto your in-memory platform. So the idea of in-memory, the SAP HANA system, the different functionality it brings in, if I were to broadly classify it, I would classify it into Trex engine, which brings you all that greatness about in-memory. P-star time gives you that traditional capabilities of a relational database management system, and the MaxDB functionality gives you the ability, in the case of any disaster, you still have your data backed up in a traditional disk-based storage system. So these are the things that actually comprises or comes together to bring the SAP HANA product in the market. So that is an introduction to SAP HANA, right? But let's take a deeper dive. We also understand that the moment we say SAP HANA, we say faster data load. These are the common things that you will hear. Faster data retrieval. You would have heard about in-memory storage of data. So these are some of the common things that you would have heard when it comes to HANA as a platform, right? But we have also heard this common thing that has been spoken everywhere. We hear that SAP HANA is not just a database, but it's much more. So now let's start understanding what that much more means all about. So I had given you in the demo session, I talked about the evolution of SAP HANA product, right? In the 2010, let's just put a timeline here, 2011, 2012, 13, 14, and so on and so forth. SAP HANA, when it came into the market in the late 2010, what happened is it was primarily used only as a database. That is, though it had some of the capabilities, we were only focusing on the P-star time capability of the traditional RDBMS system. And we were also referring to the in-memory computing capability. So it was primarily used by organizations in sidecar implementation. That is, you have your primary application. Let's say I have my BW application. It is supported by a traditional database called RDBMS system like SQL Server. What we have done is we would have taken a set of data that is very, very critical, and we would have pushed that into a separate HANA database, and that would be used for reporting purposes. So we would have carried over some redundant information into HANA. So here the primary database is still SQL Server, but the secondary database is HANA. That is how HANA was primarily used. And then later what happened is when organizations started, so when you look at it till about 2012, HANA's primary functionality was to be used as a sidecar implementation. When companies started realizing the capability of SAP HANA, they said that I'm going to no longer use SAP HANA, though you can use it as a secondary database. I'm going to shift gear. I'm going to use HANA as a primary database. So rather than BW running on Oracle and then sending another version of it to HANA, I directly put BW under HANA database. That is what was the shift in the functionality. When that became popular, what happened is organizations started feeling the benefits, reaping the benefits of HANA being its underlying database. They started moving into bringing their ECC systems, their traditional systems, onto HANA database. So let's say, for example, a company was running its SAP ECC on Oracle database or any traditional database. Now they are cutting this and they're saying, let me directly bring it into HANA database. I've seen the capacity of HANA database while working with BW. Let's bring ECC system. When this grew, they also saw the prominence of it. They said, why only bring one ECC system? Let's bring ECC, SRM, CRM, all the different applications. Let's bring it onto HANA database. So the shift happened this way. And then now SAP is now slowly realizing that I see much more benefits of this SAP HANA. Why do we have a separate ECC system and a separate HANA system? Let's combine the functionality and bring a product called as S4 HANA. This is the newer version of systems that you will see. That is a newer version of SAP's ERP product is what is called as S4 HANA. Now, why did I make this point is you need to understand how SAP HANA has grown as a product, right? So as I mentioned, when it came into the market, SAP HANA was only treated as a in-memory database. Even if you refer to the terminology, it used to be called as IMDB, in-memory database. This is how the product actually started in the market, while it was being used as a sidecar implementation. Then SAP soon realized its potential and it immediately started changing its terminology. It went from SAP HANA DB to it became SAP HANA platform. So let's understand what that terminology called platform is referring to. Typically what happens in an IT world is a platform is nothing but a combination of software and hardware. So let me give you a perspective of what I'm talking about, right? Traditionally, when you look at SAP's product, be it your traditional SAP ERP, be it your SAP BW system, CRM, SRM, so on and so forth. If you take a look at it, what used to happen is SAP was only focused on application layer, and I will explain what that means. In order to understand this difference, right, there is an application layer and a database layer to any product. To understand that better, let me quickly take a small diversion and I will talk about the SAP architecture. So you will understand what I'm referring to here. When SAP first came up with the ERP product in the 1970s, the system was called as SAP R1. What does that mean is R referred to real time, though they did not really understand the concept of real time at that point of time. They referred to this system because there was a lot of real-time interaction between the different departments. If you remember about 20 minutes back, we were talking about the ERP system and we talked about how different departments interact with each other. There is a real-time interaction between the different departments, right? So that's why they coined this terminology as real-time. And the one refers to one-tier architecture. If you remember, in the 1970s, in the early 1970s, the most popular product that was available in the market was mainframe. Every organization was using mainframe systems. So the SAP R1 system was built on a mainframe system. It was a single system. There is only one mainframe, and that's why there is only one layer to the system. All I have is a mainframe system. That's where my SAP application was running. As we all know, it's a proprietary, it's an old type of system called as mainframe. Companies no longer want to use mainframe system if possible. So eventually what happened is, as days progressed and years progressed, SAP moved on to a newer version of SAP called as R2. R still stands for real time. 2 stands for two-tier architecture. So they said, I don't want to anymore work with a mainframe system. I'm moving to a two-layered system. What is that is? I have one system which contains an application layer. Application layer is, think of it as your SAP software. And then an underlying database. This database could be any traditional database like your SQL Server, Oracle. And this system will be accessed by a client. A client is nothing but, think of it as your web browser, right? In order to access something, you need to first go into your web browser and then only go to specific website and look at that information. Similarly, in order to access this system called as SAP, you have to have a client. So this is the first layer in your architecture. This is the second layer in your architecture, and that's why it is referred to as a two-tier architecture. This was a great progress from the mainframe functionality. But the significant disadvantage with this approach is your application layer, that is your software, and your database is sitting within the same server. So if the server goes down, if the server gets shut down, both your layer, application layer, and your database layer, both is unavailable to you. That is a bigger issue, right, for our organization. Not having your access to your application and your database is a big issue. So SAP continued to evolve, and they moved on to the next terminology called as a three-tier architecture. What does this three-tier architecture mean is, it still has the client, which is your first level of architecture. The application layer is separated by itself. And then there is another layer called as database layer. Now this is the second layer, this is the third layer. This is a separate server, this is a separate server. So even if there is outage in one of the servers, the other server is not impacted right away. So what happens is, your SAP product, SAP ECC, SAP CRM, SRM, when we talk about BW, any SAP product stays in the application layer. And it is always supported by a database layer. This is where you will have either a SQL Server, Oracle, IBM DB2, so on and so forth. Any database used to be supporting. So the reason why I brought up this information is, SAP, the moment we say SAP product, it always used to focus on this application layer. And when we talk about database, it always focused on the third layer of the architecture, which is its separate database layer. So when SAP HANA was brought into the market, in the three-tier architecture, which is your client, your application layer, and your database layer, SAP was only focusing on the third layer, which is your database. They were trying to bring your HANA database into this layer and trying to replace other products like Oracle or SQL Server. It makes logical sense, right? Because the application layer is always my SAP product, which could be an SAP ECC, CRM, SRM, so on and so forth, BW, whatnot. They are saying that we were relying on a third-party tool to give us this database functionality. So they started, when SAP HANA came into the market, they started focusing on this database layer, and that's where HANA database came in. Once they saw the potential of this, because this HANA database, what does it contain? It contains the functionality of Trex, it contains the functionality of P star time, and it contains the functionality of MaxDB. They started realizing that I can use HANA in a much bigger capacity. Just don't focus on this layer alone. I can start enhancing the capabilities of SAP HANA system. So what happened is, SAP recoined its terminology from SAP HANA database to SAP HANA platform. What does a platform mean is, Now, SAP HANA database originally contained the database capability. But in addition to that, it also brought in an application layer directly within my HANA database. So if I look at my HANA platform, this is my HANA platform. My HANA platform now contains the database capability which was originally available, but it also brought in an application layer. And I will explain what this application layer does for us. So the platform now contains both an application layer and a database layer. Originally, I had to rely on an external application like BW or ECC or so on and so forth and connect it to the database. Let's say, for example, my organization is not running BW or not running any SAP product, but I still want to be able to use HANA database. I can directly create applications within my HANA platform itself. Again, I will stop at that information right now because I don't want to get into the details yet to confuse you. We will talk about this in detail length, but the idea I'm trying to give here is the HANA platform. The reason why HANA's terminology got recoined is it brought in the application layer capability also. So what happened is SAP HANA became a self-sufficient system. Let's say I have a proprietary application. I have an application that is built within my own company called XYZ. I can recreate that application in my HANA system directly in my application layer using the capabilities of the HANA database and provide reporting on top of it directly. I don't have to rely on any other SAP application. The application layer is directly built in the HANA system. That is one reason why SAP HANA is now referred to as platform. But we understand we understand the internal details of SAP HANA at a decent level, right? We have not gone into the complete technical functionalities of SAP HANA. But everybody who talks about SAP HANA really praises the functionalities that are available in SAP HANA, right? In addition to the capabilities we talked about, that is, be it the TREX, be it the P-star time, and be it the MaxDB functionality, we understand these are some of the technologies that are coming together to make this product called as SAP HANA. But beyond this, what are the other capabilities of SAP HANA that is making it extremely faster? Why is everybody talking in high regards about SAP HANA is there are 4 factors that actually make SAP HANA much prominent in the organization, right? One such factor is its in-memory functionality. So we need to understand the capabilities of in-memory. We need to understand next functionality is it has row and column storage. We will talk about in depth about what this means. Then it also has a massive parallel processing capability. And finally, it has a very powerful calculation engine inside the system. So when you talk about SAP HANA, like a little more technically detailed, these are the 4 factors that actually make SAP HANA a very prominent player in the market. The technology, the in-memory technology of SAP HANA is a greater achievement by SAP HANA. That's why many organizations are moving toward that. The row versus column storage capability. We will talk about that in detail and understand what makes the column storage functionality within SAP HANA is very prominent, and that also makes a significant leap in how this SAP HANA product is working when compared to other products. The massive parallel processing. So here is where, so if you look at these two, right, you're talking about the software components. When when you look at these functionality, you're also talking about the hardware components. As I mentioned, SAP HANA is a combination of software and hardware, right? So what we are going to do is, we are going to talk in depth about what these four things are. What is its, we will go deep dive and understand what each of these functionalities are about, what are its capabilities, what are the potential that it has, and how it is making SAP HANA extremely faster. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop at this point. I know for the first day, I don't want to go too much deep into this. So for tomorrow's session, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off talking about each of these capabilities. I'm going to talk about in-memory, I'm going to talk about row and column storage, I'm going to talk about massive parallel processing and calculation engine. Once we complete that information, that is, we will go into the details of each of these functions and understand what is happening behind the scene. Once we have done that, you have now been hearing about, when I talk about the architecture, right? There is a functionality called as client. We have been referring to this client. Anytime you try to access an SAP product, you always use a client to access any SAP product. So tomorrow what we are going to do is, we are going to see what those clients are. What are the clients that we are going to use? So to give you a perspective, we are going to be looking at SAP HANA Studio. People who are familiar with this SQL Server, if you were to access your SQL Server database, what you would do is typically you would use something called as a SQL Server Management Studio. SQL Server Management Studio is nothing but a client that helps you access your information in your underlying database. Very similarly, you will use SAP HANA Studio to access your underlying HANA platform. We will also look at the web interface. You can either access your HANA database through a HANA Studio tool, or you can also directly use a browser and access your HANA database system. So we will start looking at the look and feel of SAP HANA system along with its client. So we will also look at the client functionality. So tomorrow's focus is going to be getting a little more deeper into what each functionality of SAP HANA is all about, and then start looking at the SAP HANA Client Studio. That's what our focus is going to be on tomorrow's session. Once we have got this information through, starting next week, I think what we're going to do is we're going to start focusing on the technical architecture. Go deep dive when somebody puts data into the HANA database. What internally happens within the system? What are the different engines that are being touched? Where does the data get stored? How does it choose between memory and disk storage? We are going to talk about detail about the architecture, and then we will start looking at the first set of technology called as data provisioning. So this is how our course is going to be structured.
Thank you for attending the session. I hope you all enjoyed it. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel. Also, feel free to ask your questions in the comment section below, and we will reply to them at the earliest.